It is truly the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Ebenezer Methodist Church, Ghana. We are located at 5112 Berwyn Road, College Park, Maryland. We are looking forward to be blessed with a great word from God. We are going to dance and fellowship and worship in oneness and in spirit and in awe. Wherever you are joining us from, if you're on Facebook, our handle is EMC Maryland. If you're on Instagram, it is EMC Maryland. And if you're on YouTube, it is channel 5112. Stay tuned and we will worship together.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Transformation Hour. My name is Jessica, and I'd like to welcome you. I guess I'm back to Transformation Hour because I was gone for a little bit, but tonight we wanted to welcome you to our topic of the day, which is adulting one-on-one, and just wanted to encourage and thank everyone for coming on the line today. Transformation Hour is a safe space for all of our young adults to come and join, build community, learn about each other, and also talk about issues that we face, because one of the biggest challenges of life is feeling like you're facing everything on your own. And Transformation Hour is a place to be transparent and to talk about the transformational changes that we experience every day, and be able to talk through challenges and triumphs, and also learn about resources and how to overcome some of the challenges that we're all going through. So again, my name is Jessica, and Sister Clara is also on tonight as one of our other hosts too.
Happy to be here, and I know we're going to cover a couple of pretty heavy, well, I wouldn't say heavy topics, but I know adulting can kind of be challenging, and just trying to take things day by day. So it's really going to be more of a conversation flow, and feel free to interact in the chat. For those of you who are on Zoom, those of you who are on Facebook, you can put questions in there. We definitely want it to be more interactive, but yeah, it's just going to be like a free-flowing conversation, stuff that maybe we've learned, just navigating this new adult life, and yeah, just to kind of share some of our thoughts and what we found helpful. So, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
So I guess in terms of items that we want to cover, so we have a huge range.
Before you start, I just wanted to also say that we are Ebenezer Methodist Church, located at 5112 Berwyn Road in College Park, Maryland. We encourage you to come join and build community with us, and join us for Sunday service every Sunday at 10 a.m. We are doing in person as well as Zoom, so you can catch us on Facebook at EMC Maryland, and also meet us in person for church service as well. And be sure to like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, so you can keep up to date on great shows like this, Transformation Hour, and other amazing shows that we have taking place every day of the week. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. Yeah. So I guess in terms of what we'll cover today, I mean, it's a huge range, but kind of want to start off generic in terms of like how adulting has really been treating you. And for those of you who might not be familiar with the term adulting, for some of our parents that might have joined not too long ago, it really is like a term that I know a lot of our young people and youth use just to kind of describe the challenges and some of the opportunities that we have like within adult life. So I guess for you, Sister Jessica, how has the journey of adulting been for you so far?
Yeah, I mean, to a good point that you mentioned about the term adulting in itself, for me, I look at adulting as this strange place that you are in your life where you're old enough and you're an adult enough to pay taxes and pay bills and have a credit score that's seemingly trying to do well. And then you're stuck between still being a young person and feeling like you're part of the young high school college group. So it's a weird term, but it's really supposed to talk about the weird dynamics that take place and the hard things you go through as you transition from, I don't even know what the term is. I don't want to say child to adult, but when you really transition into being more independent and being more capable and responsible to be able to take more on than you did when you're in high school and college. So, I mean, for me, I would say, how's adulting treating me? It's definitely treating me better because if you asked me 3 months ago, I would, Jesus, take the way off. It was definitely challenging. And for me, it's adulting is hard because you go through a lot of firsts. And it's when you face failure in adulting, it's twice as hard because it feels like it costs you more. It's different when you're in high school and you fail a test, or you're in college and you fail a class. But in adulthood, if you forgot to pay your bill, which I consider a failure, your credit score drops like 10 points. Or if you forget to pay your taxes, or if you forget to do this, or you do something improper, I feel like adulting is really challenging because it feels like the cost. It just costs you so much more when you make a mistake. And that's all it is, a bunch of mistakes. Because this is your first time doing everything. Your first time buying a car, your first time really driving far without a lot of people in the car, your first time doing a lot of things, paying your bills, registering this, doing that. So it's a lot of firsts, and you've never done it before, but it's full of a lot of failures because it's a lot of firsts. So sometimes you really have to take into consideration, it feels like the failure is the worst thing in the world, but it's only because you've never done it before. So it feels like you just dropped from step number 50 and you're not, like back to square one. So that was a long explanation, but adulting is treating me better. We'll see how it treats me next week. For now, I'm okay. How about you?
I mean, it's interesting, that's for sure. I don't know if you guys have been following the crate challenge where people have been trying to run up crates purposefully just as like hood Olympics or whatever. Sometimes it can feel like that where it's like you're running on eggshells or just trying to keep up without like trying to like break your neck while going through stuff. But I mean, I'd say lately it's been interesting because I'm learning a lot of things in terms of what it means to delegate and kind of like what you were saying about the in between
Yeah.
phase and stuff. It's like you suddenly get hit with all of these responsibilities, and it's like there doesn't seem to be that cushion for people to necessarily try and fail. I feel like in society as a whole, like, the consequences are a lot steeper, than if you were like a child doing something like, I mean, even now, there's grown adults throwing temper tantrums and stuff like that. But um, just like the consequences and the expectations are set a lot higher. But I think what I've learned in like this adulting, whatever you want to call it, because I mean, from now on, we're just adults for life. There's no regression really. So
Yeah.
there's no turning back. We're in this. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think giving myself the grace to know that I don't have to have everything figured out, even though, society says I should, and I should know this and I should know that. I think asking for help has been one thing that I've been learning, and then also how to to delegate and also to say no. Because, you know, as an adult, there's so many competing priorities. You have to balance friendships, you have to balance family, you have to balance work-life balance, whatever, whatever that means. Um, you have to like exercise or, you know, just like keep up with certain things. And so I think that's one of the things that I've learned, or I mean, so far it's been treating me okay, but there have been times where it's like, man, like I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah.
Yeah. I like what you said, and I agree. It's really learning about giving yourself grace because beforehand, if you're in high school or you're in college, there's a big cushion. Like, if you're in high school and you're younger, your parents are the cushion. They're there to help you, give you money if you need it. If something happens, you can call them. In college, it's like the school is the cushion because there's so many resources on campus. You have friends there. There's people available on campus, or your parents, if you they can call, you can call them, they can come, they can help. And as you become in these weird adulting stage, there's no cushion. You are your own cushion. And I think the most challenging part is no one tells you that. So you go through a lot of things and it just goes from 0 to 100 and it hits you really, really fast. And the part about giving yourself grace is that as you go through these lessons and temptations and the tests that really stand in your way, that's you building the cushion. So when it comes back the next time around, the cushion's already there, the lesson's already learned. So you won't repeat the same pattern. But that's the most challenging part. And I gotta tell you, man, from beginning of adulting, I have to say, like, I probably started being a little bit good in 2019. And it wasn't probably until now that I've been better. Like, I've lived my entire life in survival mode, and I've lived in organized chaos for so long. And I tell everybody, like, the more I really connected with God and, like, really built my spiritual journey was when I really started to experience peace and calmness and balance, I would say, because, and it's one of those things where I have to tell everybody, as you're growing and you think about spiritual journey, you're growing, I'm telling you, you haven't really grown with God until you hit your mid-20s. Let me tell you something. If you think you know God, oh, trust me, you will hit another tier of the spiritual power and journey through your mid-20s as you really go through hell and back. I will say that. But it's hard because as a young person, I know some people are spiritual, some people aren't, and that's when some people start to really deviate. But if I knew then what I know now, I would have really put a lot more energy into understanding my relationship with God and understanding my purpose of the spiritual journey. Because it would have made the first, 6 years of this adulting thing a little bit more peaceful. But that's where I say about that in terms of giving grace and learning the cushion and the space.
I like what you said about, you know, just how you were able to go a bit deeper in your relationship with God. I think, you know, that's so key. And there's a verse that says, without faith, it's impossible to please God. And I feel like adulting really is like, you have to have faith in God. Like, there's, like what we were saying before, there's no real cushion, and the consequences are a lot higher. And of course, we have community and things. If you've been tuning into our youth service, we've been discussing community building and how that can really help in your spiritual walk and journey. But, you know, really just really experiencing God at a deeper level, knowing that, you know, nobody's coming to pay your bills, nobody's coming to get your credit correct, or, you know, there's not that level of, I guess, cushion, if you will. So it just really has shown me to trust God a lot more. Because even if you think like as an adult, you'll have a lot of choices to make, which is true. You do have a lot of choices, and I think there's the perception that you control a lot more, which you do. You definitely have the space and the ability to control your own life and make your own decisions. But there are a lot of things that are outside of your control. And I think you realize that as you continue um, to get older and just kind of be like, okay, like this is something that is out of my control. Like, how can I manage myself? And then, but how can I really tap into that relationship with God? So,
I think you brought up a really important point because when you enter the phase of adulting, it's like you said, there's so many things happening, there's no more cushion, and everything's coming at you fast. All of a sudden, everything seems like it's a priority, and it feels like you're in a burning building and you don't know where to put the fire out first. You put it out in the window, the kitchen blew up. You put out the kitchen, your bathroom's on fire. And it's one of those things where the word control is really important because you start to feel like you have to control everything. You start to feel like you have to go out of your way to make sure this happens, to make sure you can do this, to make sure you can do that, fix this, fix that. And it's like this constant fear that you feel of like self-doubt, not feeling enough. All of a sudden your self-esteem is dropping. You're like, whoa, what's going on? Now you're depressed. I'm like, how am I depressed? What happened? Now you're trying to figure this out and you're trying to find a job and you want an internship and you want a good credit score because you need a car. Oh my gosh, I need a car, but I need an apartment. Wait, am I living in my mom's basement? Wait, what am I gonna do? And everything just comes so fast.
yeah.
Your mind starts moving a million miles a minute and it's like panic mode. And you're only panicking because you want to control. And when you read the Bible, you're not supposed to control.
Yeah.
But that's why I was saying before how a lot of young adults get lost in the spiritual world. That's when they start falling off. You don't hear from them as much, or they're not as connected with God because now they're panicking and they feel like they're supposed to be controlling everything that's happening. They're trying to figure out. But the truth is, and the really secret of adulting is you're not supposed to control. You're supposed to experience. And that's what it's about. It's like falling and then you're trying to grab something to make sure you don't fall. But if you just let yourself fall, it's like you're not gonna get hurt. So the more you struggle and the more you try, the more you fail and the more you suffer. And it's one of those things where now I'm at the point in my life where I let things come and go because that's what it's supposed to do. It's kind of like if you really trust God to be everything he's supposed to be, to help you, to give you the opportunities, to bless you because you're a good steward, why are you trying so hard to control?
Yeah.
Because then that means you don't really trust and you don't really believe. So then it's two conflicting ideas going on in your head and now you're trying to figure out what's going on in your spiritual journey. So a lot of this control thing, you get paranoid because oh, I have to be married by 25. I have to have kids by 26. I have to have a PhD by I'm 27. Like, and then all of a sudden you're 25. You're like, what is going on? And you have a quarter life crisis.
Yeah.
And it all stumbles down to control. And I really feel like when you really start to experience peace and you really start to get out of the worst phase of adulting, it's when you really learn to give yourself grace, like you said, and stop trying to control everything. Like, it happened. Okay. My credit score dropped 10 points. Okay. It'll probably go up again in 2 months. I'm okay. You know, it's like, I didn't get that internship, but there's a bunch of other ones. Okay. So once we start really accepting and letting things come and go, because if you do what you're supposed to do, why are you upset that that opportunity passed you? It wasn't for you.
That's true.
So really being able to let go and stop trying to force things to happen and allow them to happen. So that's where I started finding peace, like when I let the control go. So I really like what you said because I completely agree.
That's very powerful. And I guess that kind of leads into our, like, maybe like the second topic, which is like, what are some things that you typically do to cope, like on some of like the more difficult days? Maybe your patience is being tested. Maybe you're like, nothing is going my way. Like, what do you typically uh, I guess, do to kind of ease those fears or worries or, yeah, just to kind of navigate that?
For myself, I pray, I meditate, and I exercise. Everyone always like, oh, you work out all the time. Like when I was in college, I worked out twice a day, every single day. And people used to think I was crazy. They're like, why do you work out so much? You don't have to be skinny. I was like, it's not even about the weight. Like my mind moves a million miles a minute every day. It's been like that since I was a kid. And for me, the gym was the only place I really felt quiet.
Yeah.
Like that was like the one place my mind stopped because my body was focusing on something else. So college was a really stressful time for me. I said on the past transformation hour, I was a double major, triple minor. I was taking 6 classes a day. I took classes every semester. I took winter classes, took summer classes. So, and at the same time, I was working 4 jobs. So for me, in order to not lose, and even to this day, I think to myself, that's crazy. But I was able to compartmentalize a lot of things and restructure and focus on problem solving instead of panicking and, oh my gosh, the house is on fire. Because I had something like meditation. I meditated every day. I made it morning and nighttime. Like I use the Calm app. No, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little expensive. It's like $50 a year or something like that. But it literally saved my sanity. Praying, meditating, and working out. And I really try and keep it simple. And it was the cheapest things I could do, of course, because the gym was free in college. But those are like my go-tos. Like those are the things that really keep me at peace. They keep me grounded. They keep me sane. Because I mean, we can't even lie. All of us have felt crazy. Like bang your head against the wall crazy during your adulting years, and you always feel like you're the only person suffering, and it's hard. And if you fall into these little adulting depressive modes, it'll take you somewhere where it'll take you like 2 weeks to come up. So I really urge everyone, whether you're pre-adulting and you haven't made it there yet, you're in the middle of it, or you see more of the tail end of it, really find ways, whether it's spiritual or non-spiritual, to really organize your mind, organize your emotions, and really keep yourself grounded, because that's what it does. It keeps you grounded. So some people like painting, some people like cooking, some people like taking walks, hanging out with your dog, your friends, whatever it is. Find what it is that really keeps you in that space of peace and really helps you with alignment, because honestly, that's the only thing that's gonna take you through the stage. That is like the only thing that's gonna save you, man. The amount of times I've just been sitting there eating McDonald's apple pies thinking, oh my gosh, what is going on? But it's like the more I really structured myself and I was diligent, and that's honestly what really helped me to become disciplined, to be able to take that many classes, to be able to do those things, to be able to push myself in the ways I needed to. So find things that really keep you grounded.
Yeah. I also really want to, I guess, touch on the part where you were talking about compartmentalizing. So I think that's really, really key. I was watching this interview with this musician. And so, musicians, they're always on the run. Like they have to literally like schedule their life and plan their life around like their tour dates. They also have like a family and stuff like that. And I was watching and I was talking about like time prioritization and like time management. And he said something really interesting where he was talking about, like you're juggling all these things, but you're not holding them at the same time. There's no such thing as balance, really. I feel like that's something that's kind of been promoted, like, oh, just give yourself a balance. There's no real balance. Some seasons you're going to be maybe more heavily invested in like family life. Some seasons you're going to be more heavily invested in like friends or school or relationships and stuff like that. And so I think having the right perspective and knowing that, hey, like you can't do everything all the time, uh, and being able to compartmentalize in that way. And kind of like what Osofo says, like have a strategic plan for your life. Like maybe this particular year you're trying to like set up a business. So that's like your aim. And maybe some of the other stuff that you were doing kind of falls to the wayside. And then maybe you revisit those things at a different time. But I think just really honing in and understanding that, we can't balance everything. Like God is really the only one who's capable of balance. It's like it's not within us. We're human and it's not, it's impossible for us to balance. And so I think also just going back to uh, space and also giving ourselves like the grace to learn, knowing that we don't have to do everything. And we have a very like big God that we serve, that we're able to like cast all our burdens and cares on him. And so in terms of like coping with stuff, I definitely would say also prayer, but I also like music a lot. I feel like a lot of songs can be very like relatable and like I also sometimes like hearing the story behind the song. And so sometimes there are some songs that sound really like happy, and then you like actually hear the heart or whatever it was behind whatever it was that they were going through. And it's like, oh man, that's some heavy stuff. So I think for me, especially like when I was like in my teens, I don't know, I feel like I used music as more of like a coping mechanism, just to kind of like listen and kind of like de-stress from things. And then I feel like more recently, kind of like how you meditate, I also use like an affirmation app. And so it will send me like messages throughout the day. And there have been days where it's like, man, like it's very rough. Like these work people, well, not work people, but these clients are irritating me. Like I don't know, like that brink of like, what is happening? Like all these problems are appearing and I don't know how to solve them. And just kind of taking a step back and being like, okay, like just speak words of life over yourself. And like, at the end of the day, none of this is going to matter. Like, yes, this is important, but, all of this stuff is going to pass away eventually. Like, all these things that we're striving for, all these material things, or all these accolades and awards and stuff like that, you can't take any of that with you. And so, yes, to like continue to do good and continue to be excellent, because I mean our God is excellent, but also have the right perspective of like take care of your mind, take care of your soul, and take care of your body, because that's really the temple that God has given us, and we can only do so much with our limited capabilities. So yeah.
Amen to that. But I honestly agree with you with what you said about balance. As you learn that you're not supposed to control things, you also learn that balance doesn't exist, because it's like there wouldn't be meditation if you were supposed to be balanced every day. It's like you learn tools to bring you back to center, to bring you back to alignment, because you're not supposed to be in alignment every day. That's not, it's kind of like if anyone's ever seen that Jim Carrey movie where he was like with all the cameras and it was just perfect every day, then one day he's just like, wait a minute, this is weird. But that's the thing, because even though we complain about so many things that we experience in life, yes, the Truman Show, thank you. So even though we complain about so many things in life, it's like that's the purpose of life, to experience. It's like you can't pray to God that you want the lesson, or you're like, God, teach me wisdom, give me wisdom, but you don't want to go through the test. So you're not supposed to be balanced. It doesn't exist. The word balance is misused, and I really feel that it's misleading to a lot of people, because people forever chase balance and it doesn't exist. So it's like you have all these things available to you, because when you feel like you're about to go off the deep end, it brings you back.
Yeah.
When I feel like my mind is over racing, I go to the gym. It's a tool. It's not there to make me balance, it's there to bring me back. Yeah. Just like prayer, just like devotion, just like affirmations, it brings you back. when you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do this or something, whatever, it's overwhelming me, it brings you back. These are alignment tools. They're not meant to keep you linear, because life is not linear. And it just goes back to control also, but I really like what you said also.
And it's funny, I mean, I guess just to kind of add on to that, we're terrible at maintaining balance or quote unquote balance. And I feel like there's always like extremes. And you always see it. It's like, oh, maybe one person was on this line of thought and they're like, okay, now I'm just gonna completely like do a 180 and go the complete opposite route. Like, I feel like you see a lot of that with people uh, who have like left their own like spiritual walk or like faith, where it's been like maybe they've experienced like negativity in the church, or how people were not supposed to like treat others, and then they go completely opposite, where it's like nothing to do with God or nothing to do with church. And so it's just very interesting. Like, we always talk about like being woke or like, you know, being self-aware, but I feel like at the same time, it's like God is really the only one who is able to give us that peace and that level of understanding that um, we really truly like long for or desire. So, yeah. And it's funny because it kind of leads into, I guess, the next question, which was, how has your spiritual journey like grown or, you know, like decreased during your adulting journey?
I would say it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. And honestly, you learn through the adulting process to, one, be self aware, but to trust yourself. And because when you don't trust yourself, that's where you start to really experience the spiral effects of doubt, low self esteem, feeling like nothing's going well. And it just becomes a domino where you fall into this dark hole and it takes you forever to come out. And you really learn to trust yourself. So for myself, I'd say it's hard to, because I come from marketing. So we use benchmarks, we use analytics, but in adulting, there's no such thing. This is the first time you've ever done it. So there's no data. Even when you've seen other people go through stuff in adulting, doesn't mean it happens the same way for you, whether it happens like it happened for them, or you can take what they happen to them and learn from it, but it never works the exact same way. So there's no guidebook. So even when you're doing well, the best way you can, at least I would say that I can see where I'm at, is the way my mind is processing information, the way my mood is, and how I'm able to be within groups of people, because my mood changes depending on where I am, if I'm in groups of people, if I'm by myself. And also, to be honest, you never really learn or see how far you've grown until that problem comes to you again. I tell everyone this, that in life, we feel like, oh, there's so many problems, but it's like, honestly, the same thing happens to you over and over again, just with different people and at different times in your life.
Yeah.
And the way that you honestly can see that you've grown is how you react to that same situation that happened to you 3 years ago, but you went crazy, and this time you can properly communicate. Okay, I've grown. Huh? Oh, old me with but new me is evolved. That's my word, evolved. So I feel like for myself, the time that I can see that I've grown is when the same thing came back around. And I was able to see, or if I look back and have to tell stories with people, and then we talk about, oh yeah, I remember back then we did this or we did that, then you can see the progression in the people that you're around, and you can see the progression within yourselves. Because along the way, it's really important to do a self-assessment of yourself and the people you're with, because friendships and all these different types of things shift so much within that stage. You shift so much. So in order to really feel like, or see where you're going and see how you can progress to the better stage of your life, is to really reassess. What are you doing? What are you adding in? What are you not doing? What are you not doing enough of? Like, I went through utter chaos and destruction before I really did a self-assessment. I said, hey, this working out thing is really going to make a difference in my life, because all the times I've worked out, I've been able to XYZ, do this, do that, or putting myself on a schedule really could be what's going to help me, because then I can do this, I can do that. And if I write all the times down and everything I'm supposed to do, at least at every time I know what I'm supposed to do. Because if it's 12 o'clock and I just got out of class and I don't really know what I'm supposed to do, you know what I'm gonna do? Probably go hang out, probably watch TV and do a bunch of stuff, and it's 5 o'clock and I realize I did nothing. So for me, it was more about self-assessment and checking myself, because you got to humble yourself, because God will humble you, capital H. So you really have to, humble yourself and do self-assessments and see where you can self-improve along the way. So those are the times that I saw how much I grew, or I could really see in other people and give them feedback as they did for me too. So those are things that honestly really helped me, but they're not like the bulletproof ways, but they definitely help, I should say.
Definitely. And I'm definitely in 100% agreement with, like the whole self-assessment thing, and also seeing how you react to different situations. I remember there was a very specific like instance. It was like right before I was graduating college. And it's funny because the Christian group on campus, they do something like exit interviews, kind of like how if you're leaving a job or a company, they kind of ask like how your experience was, or what is something that you feel like you grew in or learned. And I remember talking to one of like the campus leaders, and uh, we were talking about like frustration or like getting upset. And I was asking her this specific question of like, how would I know, whether or not I've grown? And I could see like little differences, and I guess how I would approach different things, or maybe things that would normally would have upset me. Like they wouldn't irritate me as much, but then maybe it would appear again, and then maybe it would like push me a little bit more, and then I would get upset. And so it's just very interesting to kind of go back and reflect. And it's like, you're never done learning and you're never done growing. And kind of like to your point, like God will keep you humble. Like if you feel like you have mastered everything that there is to know about a particular like topic, or I don't know, just like, oh, I don't need help with patience. I'm good. Like we need God every hour, just as the hymn says. And so definitely in complete agreement with the whole self-assessment thing. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think you might have touched on this a little bit earlier when you were talking about like different friendships and people that you surround yourself with. I guess the next kind of theme would be, do you have any particular like role models, or people that you specifically like look up to, that you're like, hey, like this is somebody that I admire and I kind of want to do adulting this way? Or
I say no, but there are people that I look at and I take away some characteristics or perspectives that they give me, but I don't have a particular role model, because I think what I've learned in life is that's where disappointment lies. So if you, and I say that because I've been in that situation where if you put someone on a pedestal and they're not who you think they are, or they're not what you created them to be in your mind, it becomes crippling if they're not as perfect as you kind of imagine them to be. Like, and that's why I say I don't really have a specific role model, but there are people that I look to that can give me guidance. Because at the end of the day, they're people too. Like, I don't look at my parents as role models, because it really messes up your mind into idolizing them. And at the end of the day, your parents are people too. Even if the only thing that makes them different is that they have the title of a parent, and they're just placed on this earth to guide you to the next phase of life. It's like, they're not gods, they're not smarter than you, and there's probably a lot of things they did that were mistakes that they can guide you and give you a different perspective, so you can make a better choice when you get there. But I don't idolize anybody, and I say that because there have been times when I feel like people have put me on a pedestal. Not that I'm perfect or anything, but like if you're good at something, people just look at you a certain type of way. And I never want people to ever feel like I'm the model, because there's so many things I've experienced in my life, I've done in life. I'm not a perfect person, and I never claim to be, but I want people to, and it also sets up like this feeling of they're better than me, or oh my gosh, I'm idolizing this person and they know more than me. Oh, I'm not good enough, I don't know enough like them, why can't I be like them? And it starts to really push you in a different direction. So I try not to have quote role models, because I really try, and that's my perspective, like really try and put things into perspective, but understand that the only thing that makes them different is that they have a different perspective, and they have a perspective that can help me, versus putting them into a position that they didn't ask to be in.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's like a complicated answer, but I say that's why I don't specifically have a role model, but they are definitely people that I can have conversations with that give you perspective. Like we have great conversation all the time. Like me and you have awesome conversation all the time. Like me and Sister Yvonne we have awesome conversation all the time. I have friends within church. I have friends outside of church. I have times where I talk to Osofo where we can laugh like crazy, or he can be like, hey man, I was just thinking about that time that you might have did or you said, and this is the perspective. And Brother Wood and Sister Mabel and Sister Avina, and my mom. So there's people in my life that I feel that they have a great perspective that's opposite of mine, that really helps me do some critical thinking, so I can reposition my perspective or stand true in my perspective. So not necessarily role models, but definitely good people in my life who are guides and are a nice cushion that I've been adding to my little layer underneath me. So yeah, but what about you?
I really like how you phrased it. Yeah, I mean, I think upon when I was thinking about it initially, I was like, oh, the first person is definitely like my mom. But I mean, to your point, there have been times where I've really like not even necessarily like intentionally done this, but been like, oh man, like, oh, I really like looked up to this person, and it's like
Yeah.
you have to continuously like unlearn that people are, people are not perfect. And we say that and we know that, but it can be really like, I don't know, it can be like a total like shift in your mind where it's like even like maybe like different pastors or things like that. Like you see it in the news all the time where it's like, oh, this couple was perceived to have like this perfect relationship. I think it's what Steph Curry's parents
All
now
right.
getting
Yeah.
divorced, and then somebody, the shade room is always posting some stuff, and they're like, not the Christian family or stuff like that. And so I think reminding ourselves that the standard is not other people, like the standard is Christ. And so because God can never disappoint us, like we shouldn't be placing our hope and our trust in other people. Like what you said, I feel like I take different lessons from people, definitely like my mom and the way that she values things and values family. And I'm like, man, like I hope whatever I have my kids, like I'm just as great as her. Like, because I'm like, man, I don't know the way that our parents also sometimes navigate. I'm like, I'm over here, I'm struggling, I'm, and you guys are killing it. So thanks, shout out to our parents. But yeah, there are some like different YouTube families. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't watch. It's weird because when I was little, I used to watch a whole lot of TV, but now it's like YouTube families. And so I like to watch and kind of pick different things that um, they do with their kids, or the ways that they teach their children, or the way that they even interact with their spouse and stuff like that. I'm like, like this is an interesting perspective, or this is another way to consider things. And then just people around me, like all the people that you mentioned, like Brother Wood and Sister Mabel, and just seeing how they interact with other people, and um, like hearing their perspectives on different things is really helpful, because it challenges you. It challenges you to grow spiritually, and it also challenges you not to be so, I guess, rigid in the way that you were either brought up, or the things that have been normalized by whatever environment that you've grown in. So,
Yeah. I like what you said about the YouTube families because it's true. Like there's some things that I look at my mom, I'm like, that's some really good stuff. Let me learn more about how you do this. And there's some things that I'm like, well, it worked for you, but I don't know if that's really gonna work for me. And then you have to go look for a different perspective somewhere else.
yeah.
So I think doing that really helps you to be a little bit more well-rounded, and it helps to be helps when you want to be more self-aware, because when you have different perspectives to work from, you're able to assess within yourself what works for you, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of, and pick and choose the strategies that you can apply. And I think one of the most important things in life is that you are a forever student. So as a forever student, you have to learn. And learning is being self-aware in your environment. So it's like, that's why a lot of times I really push, with Transformation Hour, and when I talk to some of the younger people in church, is that we have been through a lot. So, Transformation Hour and youth service, and the times that we have these little conversations between church services and one-on-one or in a group, I want you guys to be learning. I want you to be collecting information. I want you to take mental notes, because the way I suffered in XYZ, when you get to that point, you probably won't suffer the same as I did. Hey, student loans, we kind of really didn't really know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we had to figure things out. And when you get to that point, you have a better perspective and a better resource. So even though it took us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to figure out what to do, you can jump from 1 right to 6, because all the heartache and confusion we went through, you can bypass that because you learn from us. So, and that goes at any age level. That goes for myself as I look at you guys that I talk to a lot, or even Osofo or my mom, and people in my environment. It all works the same way. So if you're a forever student, really helps you to really put your own pride and ego into perspective, especially as you encounter some of these things in life.
Yeah. And I think I would also just say, for something that you are interested in learning, or interested in, becoming more of, whether it's like a career path, or you're just like, oh, you raise your kids so well. Like, how did you, how did you like make sure like they were so engaged in like the Bible, or like what did you do to create a family culture that does X, Y, and Z? I think mentorship is extremely key, even though we might not necessarily have like quote unquote role models, but having spiritual mentors, somebody where you're like, man, like I don't have the patience that Job has. Like, let me find somebody that I can really, ask questions, and like the practical day to day, as to how to improve in those areas. Like, really find somebody that's doing what you want to do, and find out how they did it. Like, so that you don't have to continuously repeat unnecessary mistakes, like really unnecessary mistakes where you could have just, like you said, bypassed a lot of like pain and heartache, and just set yourself up for success. So I know we're a little bit short on time, so I'll combine the last couple of questions. They're very like similar.
Okay.
So
before you go, Sister Yvonne said in the chat that she saw a quote by a Canadian hockey player, Maxime Lacey, and it says, "If you stay humble, you stay open. If you stay open, you keep learning. If you keep learning, it means you're growing. It means you're living."
amen to that.
Go ahead.
So I guess part A and part B of this question. So what are some ways that you, I guess, continue to grow in this journey? And I feel like we've kind of already touched on it. And then like, what's some advice also that you would share with somebody now kind of transitioning into that preteen, teen into adulting phase?
I would say one, be authentic, and two, keep it real and find people who can keep it real with you. Like my, I always tell people like I don't lie, and people are like that's so like you don't tell a white lie, you don't. I was like my brain moves a million miles a minute. I can't even remember anything. If you look at my cell phone, I have like 400 notes. I have notes on my computer. I have notes on my computer right here. I don't remember anything. But it's also that that's why I want that's funny because that's why I don't lie, but it's also like if you're authentic and you stand in your truth, you'll never feel the need to lie. That's just like a simple example, but authenticity will take you so much farther than feeling like you have to conform to be in a certain place or to be in a certain group or with a certain person or however that goes. And authenticity and just being myself just really got me a lot of good friends. It got me a lot of good opportunities. It got me in places I would have never dreamed of getting into. And I would say be authentic because that also aids in you being grounded. It also aids in you being humble. It also aids in you building self-awareness and building strength within who you think you are and what you're capable of doing. Being continuously and consistently authentic with yourself and about yourself to the people around you. And the second part of keeping it real is being honest with yourself and honest with the people around you. I have friends, my friends outside of church, I've known them all since the 6th grade, some of them since like the 9th grade. We're pushing like 15, almost 20 years of friendship. And my newer friends are more so people within the church. But I say that because those people they're very honest and authentic within their self. And they also keep me grounded. They can check me if I do something wrong, if I say something wrong, if I have the wrong perspective, and vice versa. And for me, being authentic and being real is being able to come on a platform and just be who I am and know that that's enough that I can give to this platform. That's enough I can give to my job, to my marketing clients, to my studies and all the things I'm trying to do. So being authentic and real just really gives me a lot of openness to have a strong perspective. And it really brought good, genuine people into my life. In my entire life, there's probably only been one friend I ever had to let go of. And that's just because I was always real about who I was, and they were real with who they were with me. And the same thing works in different opportunities. And it just really gives you an opportunity to just showcase yourself without having to overly sell yourself. When you're authentic, you know that you got this opportunity or you got to be with this person or you have this friend group because they like you for you. They like what you have, even whether you have 10 years of experience or 1 year of experience. You being authentically you was enough to get you this job, was enough to get these group of people who value you for being you and not value you for what you're presenting to the world. So, and life just comes a lot easier when you're authentic and you're real. Just be honest with yourself, honest with where you are, who you're trying to be, and know that half the time nobody's thinking about you. Trust and believe the 20s will teach you you are not that important. Half the time nobody's thinking about you. So you trying to do the most and do this and put on this facade and show yourself, you're exhausted. But it's like no one is overly thinking about you the way you think they are. So just be you.
Very wise words. I know we have a couple minutes.
Oh, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
I guess, some ways to grow. I think remembering that, like the best is yet to come. And I feel like I've been thinking about this a lot more, especially as, just kind of seeing in the news and all the things that are happening in the world, like not to lose hope and not to lose faith that something better is along the way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like material or anything like that, but in terms of being secure in, I think, what you believe in and being secure in your faith. And then I think, um, I guess, advice that I would give to someone entering adulting, like you don't have to have everything figured out. And I keep telling myself that it's difficult, and it's easier said than done, that you don't have to know everything. Um, I don't know who I was talking to, and the person, this lady was like, "Oh, well, like you're doing a great job." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" Like, I feel like I'm, I have no clue what's happening. So yeah, give yourself credit, give God credit for what He's been able to do in your life. And I think, um, one thing that I'm challenging myself to do more is in terms of being more vulnerable. I know you spoke a lot about like authenticity and vulnerability, and so I feel like I'm trying to learn what that looks like, I guess, for myself, especially I think in a culture, in like Ghanaian culture where it's like, oh, you don't want to do X, Y, and Z because this person will talk or that person will talk, or you have to think of like, how will this affect X, Y, and Z? Like, you can't just think about yourself. And I'm not saying anyone should be selfish. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But like, you're thinking of others all the time, or how, the community or whatever group, a larger group will perceive you. And, you're yourself for this entire life. So why not, like what you were saying, why not just be yourself and be honest with yourself instead of trying to, whether it's keep up with the Joneses or it's really impossible to make everyone happy. And I think that's what I've learned in this adulting things. Like you could do everything imaginable and people still will not necessarily agree with you. They won't necessarily support you in all your decisions, but you have to be, like what you were saying, confident in whatever decisions that you make. And, just be confident in who you are and who God's created you to be. So,
Amen. I even also wanted to piggyback something you said, like in the beginning of the show, was that not everything is as big of a deal as you think it is. And I really used to tell myself it's not that deep. Because sometimes, because it feels like it's such a big failure in your adulting stage, because it feels like I've been working so hard, I did so well, I failed, oh, dropped 10 steps. And really telling yourself it's not that deep, because by next week, there's a new problem. And you completely forget about whatever happened last week. So really trying to tell yourself, like, it's not the end all be all. Even if something bad happened or you failed or you feel like you lost, like, if you're honest in your experience with the people around you, you'd probably find other people went through that same thing too, or you're not the only person struggling. And also, that's something I wish I learned earlier on, being honest, because I felt like for us, I want to say like this group of people our age, early on, like everyone pretended like nothing was wrong. Everyone was living their best life, vacations, and having the greatest time in their life while we're all struggling and crying inside. But no one was really open and honest because, like you said, we're scared of what other people think. We don't want people to think we're a failure. But you realize the more you start talking to people, yeah, they feel miserable just like you. Yes, their credit score dropped too. Or yeah, no, they're living in their mom's house too. So it's like when you're more honest and really be able to build community with people, you can see, oh, it's not even as bad as I thought it is. Or you might meet someone that says, hey, I went through that. I'm going to show you how to fix it. And you just saved yourself all this time. But if you never said anything, what would you be doing? Suffering in misery by yourself, thinking the world is over. So I like what you said a lot. That was towards the beginning about it's not as big of a problem as you think it is. And honestly, by the time you start getting older, you realize there's bigger problems than we were thinking before, which I learn every day. And I'm like, okay. But I thought that was a great point that you made earlier on.
Thank you. Well, I know that let's see if there's any questions in the chat. Just like it.
Does anyone have any questions before we close out the program today? Any questions or comments? Because we're all adulting together.
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
So I guess we can close out, but I guess before we do, definitely want to invite everyone to youth service this upcoming Sunday. It's actually going to be Sundays with the SOFO. So our theme actually is about managing emotions. If you remember from last time, that was kind of like our mini homework assignment. And I think it really nicely ties into what we've been talking about today. So definitely join us on Zoom on Sunday at 1. And we're just continuing that community building series. And we'll also be hopefully going back to church with our youth service. So definitely stay tuned. But just want to close us out in prayer. But I want to ask, are there any like announcements or anything that, any upcoming stuff that you would like to share?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah.
The group. Oh, sorry, I was just quiet.
You're good.
The only announcements would be, I would say, the International Worship Center message that you had posted earlier today about.
Oh, yes.
That it was coming back.
Yeah, so join us for that.
And also wanted to even just start putting this into the atmosphere that as the youth group, we're really trying to, as we talk a lot about building community, build an authentic community, which means that really investing and caring about the people within the youth group outside of just Sunday, outside of just church, outside of prayer marathons and Bible verses, because we all have a life outside of church. So really putting more care and watering into the people, into our youth group, as we just talked about all the challenges in adulting. You know, how's everyone doing? What's going on with you? Do you need help? Do you need resources? Or being able to just have those dialogues with people and just really caring about their everyday life, not just church life. And I think that's really important and authentic to building a genuine community, not just caring when it's time to pray or time for youth service, but really caring, not that we didn't care, let me rephrase that. We cared before it all set off, but really we're now showing it through action, which we want to do more activities, whether it's group workout sessions, group breakfast, hanging out, bowling time, group lunch sessions, visiting some kids on campus. You know, there's various different ways that we want to show our care and our love for our community outside of just church, but really investing into their everyday life. So that's something that we're working and putting together. So if you're interested in helping or learning more about that, let us know. And there'll be more details about that coming out soon. But just wanted to drop that in because we've been talking about community so much. And besides that, I would say, you know, congratulations, and we pray for all the kids who are just about to start high school and also the freshmen of college. I mean, it's going to be an interesting time. So we pray for you. But if you ever have some challenges, we have tons of experience and we'd be happy to share.
For sure. You either need to be a doctor or engineer like Kofi's son, or you're not my son. That was in the chat. So just know that the pressure is off. And the pressure is off. But I guess we can close in prayer. Father God, we just thank you for this conversation that we've been able to have just about how you are in the midst of every area and every aspect of our lives, including adulting. God, I pray that you would just bless us as we depart from here, and that you would just continue to strengthen us, build us as a community, teach us how to love and to love well, and also just to be our authentic selves as we're going through this life, and to know that we don't have to go through it alone. We thank you, dear God, and we just pray for the remainder of this week to go well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And as we're closing out, I just wanted to also remind everyone, this is Transformation Hour. It happens every Wednesday at 8 p.m. It is a place to build community. It's a safe space for young people, created by young people. It's a place to build community, a place to learn about challenges that's going on in all of our lives, learn about resources, troubleshoot, and just be able to build community and find other people who have either gone through the challenge that you're going through, are currently going through it, or have already been there and have some words of wisdom to give you. So Transformation Hour is just a safe space for us to really be able to be authentically ourselves. And of course, keep it real with each other. But thank you for joining today. Again, this is Ebenezer Methodist Church at 5112 Berwyn Road in College Park, Maryland. You can join us every single day. We have a program every day, like we have Transformation Hour today. So go ahead and follow us on Facebook and on Instagram at EMC Maryland, and also follow us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel 5112. And you can see the playbacks of all the programs that we have going on, including our Sunday service that takes place every Sunday on Zoom and in person at 10 a.m.
Awesome.
Okay. Anything else to add?
No, I think you've covered it.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for joining, everyone. Have a good night.